Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Boy, I want to talk to some of you guys afterwards because I have your perfect pilot project. I've got a community up north that is isolated from the rest of the world. They're paying $7, $8 a gallon for gas. Their natural gas is dirt cheap. They don't need to worry about filling up anywhere else along the transportation grid because we don't have one. So we'll be talking afterwards. I want to ask, because the chairman mentions the issue of the chicken and the egg and this whole infrastructure and how we build this out. So many have said that, you know, this is not doable because we just can't get the infrastructure moving to the point that that the consumer feels comfortable enough to purchase these vehicles. And yet we know that when we're talking about the long-haul vehicles, we're seeing those changes. I think each and every one of you has mentioned instances where the private sector is figuring this out. The question to each of you is whether or not you see a need outside of the desire to get what some might consider to be free money, but a need for taxpayer money being used to subsidize the development of whether it's vehicles, whether it's infrastructure, other expenses that might be associated with switching to natural gas, or really for any other fuel for that matter. You know, several of you have mentioned the need that we need to be technology neutral, fuel neutral. So among the 5 of you here today, do you see a need for direct federal dollars, those kinds of incentives that will take taxpayer money at this point in time, whether it's for infrastructure, vehicles, or other? And we'll start with you, Mr. McCurdy, and just go on down.
Thank you, Senator. And we can talk about Alaska. But the Senate recently voted on the Nat Gas Act, and there were 51 votes for it, but it failed to reach the requisite 60. And that was a funding neutral provision. There were pay-fors for that. But the Senate has acted recently, so I'm going to leave it at that. What we've asked for are technology neutral approaches in the regulatory front and to correcting some of the current taxes that discriminate against LNG, such as the excise tax. We believe that the fuel economy rule, the CAFE rule, is a wonderful opportunity because here is a mandate from government for the manufacturing world on a sales average-based approach to meet certain standards. And here's an opportunity for alternative fuel vehicles, both electric and natural gas, to meet that standard by having an equal incentive. So that's meeting the standard and a government obligation, and it's not direct taxpayer expense. Those kind of approaches we think can move this in a more rapid basis. So we all understand the tough balance that our government and our country has to face as far as the rising deficits. But we also have a sluggish economy, and as we see this infrastructure being market-driven, in fact, there's opportunity to accelerate that pace with some wise policy choices.
Dr. Gallagher?
Thank you. The economics, as we've said, are starting to move markets, which is great. I do agree with Dave's comment that we should at least not penalize natural gas as a transportation fuel, so we really need to equalize this tax on LNG versus diesel at the energy equivalent level. It's currently a 17-cent per diesel equivalent gallon penalty for using a cleaner domestic fuel, natural gas, which I don't think makes a lot of sense. There used to be, so in terms of, so this thing's going to go, but we have to realize we're really at the infancy of this industry here in the United States, particularly for long haul, where we put the very first long haul truck on the road 4 years ago at the Port of Los Angeles, the very first, and today they're, you know, a modest number, but it's at the infancy. Same is really true for light duty in the U.S. So we're looking for ways that we can encourage and accelerate this wonderful transition to a cleaner cheaper domestic fuel. So I think we look at ways to do that. I'm not sure using taxpayer money has to be the way to do that, but we look for ways to do it. There was a proposal to reinstate the vehicle tax credit for heavy-duty trucks floating recently because the current price premiums are higher, given that there's no scale yet in the industry that produces those trucks. That proposal was going to pay back all the credits with the fuel cost savings over the life of the vehicle, so it was tax neutral, I think. So things like that, I think, could work. And lastly, there's other sort of non-fiduciary budgetary ways, like going after the $150 billion that the federal government spends on procuring third-party transportation services. We could put in alt-fuel standards for those procurements and require some percentage of new transportation services provided by third parties, the United States Postal Service and others, be natural gas vehicles, electric vehicles, biofuel vehicles, et cetera. Thanks.